Welcome back to MMA Fancast. My name is Luke Payson. I'm excited to have you here for another great interview. If you've already liked and subscribed to the channel, then welcome back to you. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe so you can see more great interviews of MMA fighters or really all things related to MMA, including one half of the co-main event of Brawl in the Berg 22 for 247 Fighting Championships incredible event on June 29th at Monroeville Convention Center. Get your tickets now. Is Justin the General Patton. Justin, welcome back to the show.
What's up, dude? How you doing?
Oh man, it's always great to have you on the show. The last interview we did, which was your post-fight of a knockout of the year candidate, if not winner, we'll see. But incredible win, was one of my favorite ever because I worked for Waynesburg University on and off for about a decade of my life. Plus, I got 3 degrees from Waynesburg University, and we got to do an interview on Waynesburg University campus. Well, technically off campus, but at their softball field, as your lady has now taken on the head women's wrestling role for Waynesburg. And it was just really special for me to see you guys on what I consider my home turf at Waynesburg University. I know she's going to do great in that role. She's already, for people that don't, get out there and follow the Waynesburg Women's University Wrestling page on Facebook, which is fantastic. I think I was the first 20 to do so. So you can be late to the game, but you can still get to the game. Follow the page. It's really exciting. Carly Joe is signing, obviously, a lot of new recruits, a lot of people jumping on to what I'm sure will be an incredible debut season for women's wrestling at Waynesburg. But you're on the show tonight to talk about your co-main event at Brawl in the Berg 22. No rest for you. You always love to be very busy and active. So what made you say yes to fighting again in June after April? And how did this fight come together?
I mean, I asked all the fans and they said they wanted to see me again. So here we are again.
Like they're going to say no when you're on the mic and you're like, but you did. You're right. You did say you want to see me back at the time. And this is exciting. At the time, it was being announced that the June 29th card was going to be at the event center at the Meadows Casino, which is very, very a great location. But tickets sold so fast because of you and all the other pro fights on that. The main event's great. Obviously, you're in the co-main event. They've already announced 7 pro fights and 3 pro fights that have been matched but not announced. So probably something like 10 pro fights. So what was it like for you to hear that this thing was selling so much that they had to move it to Monroeville Convention Center from what originally your question was, do you want me to be back here June 29th? And obviously you'll be fighting in the cage, but the cage will be moved. What do you think of that?
I mean, it doesn't matter to me where we fight. I do like the Meadows. I like Monroeville too. It's right up the street. I can literally it's 15 minutes up the road, go get into a fight, lay in my bed at night. It's cool, but it don't matter to me. Wherever the cage is, we'll fight,
Absolutely. And I think it's a great sign. It's a good problem to have. I know 247 loves the Meadows. The Meadows have a great venue there, really great atmosphere, but obviously selling more tickets and being a bigger event at Monroeville is great. I've seen and I've called the action for Tobias Taylor when he last fought for 247. What made you say yes for Tobias? What are your thoughts on this specific matchup?
I mean, I really don't look at my coaches figure out my opponents. You know what I mean? I let Chris and Isaac take care of it. I really don't even watch too much film. I'll watch 1 or 2 fights. If they think I can do it, I can do it. I don't need. You know what I mean?
That's what's great. You're on a very sweet streak that you're looking to continue. Obviously, the Lave fight was just, yeah, that was the most recent one, right? Yeah. No, Hustis was the most recent. Yeah, you threw in another name. We were talking about Alave. I think you mentioned Hustis was kind of looked like Justice, but with the H because he's Cuban. Hustis what was an incredible fight. Do you believe in any type of momentum coming off an incredible knockout? How's it felt training? Is it the same old because you've been developing every time you look like a brand new general in there, or do you feel like it does feel good coming off that fight to be in this?
I mean, it feels good, but people come up and congratulate me, and that was a sick fight and this and that. I'm like, I just got to go out there and do it again. You're only as good as your last performance. You know what I mean? My last one happened to be good. This next one has to be good or even better. You know what I mean? So I feel like there is some momentum, but I try to not let it get to me at all. It's not. It's just another. It's another fight. It's a brand new fight again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that does make sense. I think you've been known on this show to talk kind of about how when losses have come up at amateur and pro, you got to deal with that mentally. And now you've got to also deal when things go great. I mean, that's why fighting really is so mental, because there's the mental game that happens when a loss pops up. There's also the mental game to keep grinding, keep focused, keep, because we've seen fighters at the highest UFC level handle wins very well, where they continue to defend. I think of a GSP because I'm required to talk about GSP because he's my all-time favorite UFC fighter. But the reality is he handled being the champ and continuing to defend very well. We've seen some champs then later when they drop their belt say, didn't take it seriously. Kind of thought I was great, you know. So your attitude, your mindset, the coaches, obviously, the Matt factor, everybody's surrounding you with that mindset that you could continue to improve, continue to get better. And yeah, it's great to feel good about your last knockout was sensational. And I've already said, you know, I think it's going to be the reward winner or, you know, in the running for the 247 knockout of the year. It's just incredible. But at the same time, that mindset that you have to keep looking towards this fight. So what do you want to do? You haven't necessarily come up with a specific game plan to Tobias, and obviously that's something you guys will be working on with your coaches. But what's your game plan going in there? What's your prediction? What do you think the fans can expect to see when you make it to the co-main event? When you walk out and everybody starts screaming, the general, the general, the general, as you walk in, looking at your shirts and all that. I mean, it's a great atmosphere. It's a great atmosphere. Talk about that.
um, I mean, it's gonna be the same old, same old. We're gonna go in there and figure them out and get the job done. You know what I mean? Um, there's some things I'm looking for more than others, but you don't have anything set in your ways because if that doesn't happen, what are you gonna do? Crap the bed? You know what I mean? And then you go out there and you panic. Like my last fight, I was trying to take him down. It didn't happen. So I'm like, I guess we're striking this fight. You know what I mean? And it worked out. So you can't, a little hiccup in the fight, you can't let that get to you. You just got to keep fighting the fight.
A great mindset as a pro. Also, for people out there that are watching that are new to MMA or starting off as amateur, that's the mindset side. You have to keep working on the techniques and the physical ability because you've mentioned that as well. But the mindset side is to always be able to adjust. And sometimes we've seen fighters kind of die with the game plan, right? Stick
Yeah,
to something that's
100%.
not working. Your adjustments are legendary. Your skill set's legendary. Your corner is legendary for those adjustments. And the Eustace fights really showed, and we have seen this in the last several fights from you, that you're striking. You've thanked Chris Williams and others that have helped you, but your striking is on such a level that I've kind of come to get used to being like, oh yeah, you're just gonna be very striking heavy. I think it's also exciting that going up to Houston, even though games changed, your game plan was different, variety, show more variety. You do train at the Matt Factory that's known for wrestling.
Right.
Clearly great at that. You've won fights. I can say now earlier in your pro career because you've had so many pro fights where you did take the fight to the ground and just hawk smash on the ground, right? So, which
Yeah.
is a great thing. So, I think it's wonderful to see your adjustments coming into this fight. Um, with that being said, and obviously you're the co-main event. It's going to be an incredible night. Um, have you looked because this is going to be the most pro fights ever on a 247 card by a ton. You know, usually it was four would be a high number, three or two was more typical, just because of how it worked out. Sometimes they had matched more pro fights and they had dropped off, and all that. Do you think that raises? And I want to say amateur fights have been super exciting. Title fights, advanced amateur. It's no disrespect to the amateurs. I actually think it's 247 has proven you fought for them as an amateur. I think they've proven that they can develop amateurs into great pros, and we've seen that. We just had a Division II national champ make a great Noah Hermosillo.
Yeah.
Hermosillo, got it. Hermosillo made a great show. So what do you think about being the co-main event on a card that's already announced as 14 pro fighters, 7 pro fights? What do you think about being on a very deep pro card?
I think that raises 247's level overall, you know what I mean? Eventually, maybe they might have a whole pro card and have an amateur card a different night or something, you know what I mean? So it's just raising their stock, you could say, overall, you know what I mean? It's getting their level up there, making them obviously own this area, and then obviously want to get other pros in here. And the more pro fights they have, the more pros they can get in and then make their area bigger, you know? I
Yeah,
think they're slowly taking over.
they are. I think that's what's exciting for 247 being an incredible regional promotion. And also what you have said on the mic at times. Everybody in Pittsburgh really does have a Pittsburgh versus the world mindset. The gyms cross train. That's what makes a lot of what you guys do so special. Not only the Mat Factory's specifics, but also all the cross training you do like that. I don't know. I've been looking through. Are you excited? Is there anybody from the Mat Factory already announced? I'm looking down the list. I think other than Kama, who of course is not the Mat Factory, but you know him really well. Anybody on that card that you're already excited to kind of be on the card with?
I can't. There's a couple fights that aren't announced yet
Are
that I'm
not
pretty
announced.
excited for.
Fair enough. But
I
you're
can't say
excited
nothing.
about those. You're excited
Yeah,
about those fighters, and you think they're going to win. See, there you go. So
yeah.
that goes a long way. Yes, I am. I am legitimately in the dark. Sometimes people think I have behind the scene knowledge, and sometimes I do very briefly. But I know you as obviously as a fighter and as a sparring partner, training partner, you know more of the behind the scenes. That card for June 29th, we'd already talked about it moving to Monroeville Convention Center for a purpose. Uh, there are so many fights that have been matched and signed that haven't been announced. That way they can continue to develop the excitement. So glad you're excited about who else is going to be on the card. I have no idea, but I'm absolutely pumped. It's going to be an incredible night of fights. I always appreciate you coming on the show. Best skills to you, everybody from the Mat Factory, really everybody on both. I just did what I thought was a pretty great interview with the one half of the main event, Chris the Rocket Rollins, who's coming in to take on Kama. He's a very experienced, and he was mentioning just like the ability to see how good 247 is putting on shows, to see what Pittsburgh is, to know what it means to come into enemy territory and know that the crowd's going to be against them. So I think the reputation is great, not only for 247, but Pittsburgh and you guys. And I said, oh yes, for for the general and for Kama, it just goes. It's like, and you guys never would, because I know your crowds cheer for each other, but it's almost like the battle of the crowds. You come out, it's crazy. Kama comes out, it's crazy. It's crazy for both. So
Yeah, it's nuts.
it
It's so
really,
crazy.
and if people have not gotten tickets for in person, or I had the opportunity to talk to a couple fans that had never been to a 247 fight after the fight. I think we ended up at Applebee's or something, and they happened to come over and introduce themselves to me and the legendary Jim Mooney. And I always think that's exciting. If you've only watched MMA, whether it's UFC or some other promotion, or even 247 on pay-per-view, it's worth getting to a fight in person. It just makes the world of a difference. And I give a shout out to them. First fight ever, and they bought front row. They brought front row tickets to really experience it. And we're talking a ton about your incredible knockout, because they happened to be on the side where Hustis, slumped against that part of the cage. So it was almost like perfect. And I joked and I said, "Oh yeah. I told Justin knock him out on your side so that you could be close to it." They're like, "Oh my goodness." I was like, "Yeah, I definitely didn't do that. You can't really do that unless, of
Yeah,
course,
he
we
was
have
falling where he
seen."
fell.
Yeah. He just fell where he fell. You're not gonna like take him over here and be like, "Okay, over here," but still very, very exciting. I appreciate you coming on. Everybody get their tickets. When you're getting tickets, give Justin credit. If you're gonna be from out of the area and you're gonna be doing pay-per-view, get the 247 Live app now, downloaded to whatever device you're going to be using. And that way you can still get the pay-per-views through there. You can put it up on your smart TV that way. Really appreciate you coming on the show. As always, you've been listening to Luke Basin from MMA Fancast with special guest of the show, Justin the General Patton. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, bro.
You
Peace.
got it, brother. Can't wait. June 29th.
Later.
You got it.